Um, so, with summer we have our dreams, we have our hopes, we have things we want to do, we have things that our kids want to do. And so maybe if you could put into the comment, what is a hope that you have for the summer or your kids have for the summer if you're a parent? Um, let's see if we can share some of the things we're really looking forward to this summer. Um, so, one of the things that I think is really fun about the summer is that there's time to chill out. There isn't the same kind of pressure often with school, although some parents have their and some kids go to year-round school, so there's a break and then there's school again. Um, but after a few days of chilling, sometimes family conflicts can arise. Um, Arguments about screen time, household chores, and curfews can quickly escalate into unpleasant explosions. And you kind of get this thing that settles into your kids and maybe yourself, which I call the blobdom boredom matrix. It's like you're not, people aren't really interested in doing anything other than lying around or using screens. And then there's complaining about not having anything to do when the devices are removed. There's really no way to go through a summer. So we want to try to talk, we want to do some pre planning for our summer so we can set ourselves up for success, whether we do that for ourselves as adults or we work with our kids to do that. So Melissa says she's looking forward to her daughter decompressing. Fabiola would love to learn how to swim. Oh, that's so important. Desi, I hope to help my 8-year-old daughter become more independent. Great. So, um, so what we want to think about are how can we work with our partners or our kids or our younger selves and to create a summer that's satisfying. We are not going to aim for happiness, which I think is a really unreasonable aim. What we want to aim for is contentment with moments of joy, because it's those moments of joy that are going to sink in as those memories that you will recall and your kids will recall later as well. Um, Despite claims, ours and theirs, for disliking schedules or feeling choked by plans, many kids with ADHD um, and kids without ADHD, but need a sense of purpose and structure to their days. Having a place to go and something to do keeps them engaged mentally, physically, and socially. So while your kids might need like a week off after school or maybe even two to just decompress and do nothing, after that it can be less fun, less amusing, less satisfying because the kids get a little antsy. Um, so we want to work on maintaining routines that we set up during the school year, tweaking them appropriately for the summer, so the kids know what's expected of them and what to look for, and you can know what's expected of you and what you might need. So let's look at what some people are talking about. Cassandra says, my grandma died last year and it was a devastating loss. I took significant time away from formal lessons in our homeschool to make space for grief. Good for you. Good for you. My ADHD need for perfection and nagging negative core beliefs are in high gear. I'm working on figuring out a routine that allows us to catch up and also have some summer fun. Right. So, what you're talking about, Cassandra, is balance. How do we create a balanced summer where there's some structured activities, some free and easy time, or I like to call it barefoot and fancy free time, and then connected time that's meaningful and relaxed. Leslie says riding on the boat with just the girls and me and their dad spending quality family time bonding together, making new memories. Beautiful. Donna says you're working on a schedule now. Great, Donna. Why don't you put in the chat what you're working on? Because I'd love to hear. Diana, I would like to have fun connecting with my kids, give my executive functioning a little break, and enjoy nature. Fabulous. Fabiola, I need that too, and I'm an adult. LOL. Heather, I want my teenage son to learn a skill this summer. Interesting. Do you have an idea what that skill is? Is your teenage son interested in learning a skill? Nancy, my 15-year-old son does not want a job this year. This is my concern, how to keep him occupied and less screen time. This is a good question, Nancy. Can your 15-year-old actually get a job where you live? I know where I live, jobs for 15-year-olds are really scarce. So often I work with parents to come up with a volunteer activity and some, enrolled community, not camp, but activities that appeal to them. Andrea, self care, time to myself, sailing on Blue Nose, going to Toronto, parks. That sounds great. Susan, when my son was still in college but home for the summer, I had him plan and cook Friday dinners. Win win for him and me. Ooh, I love that idea. So as we're talking here, I'm curious, what kind of structure makes sense for you and for your family? So one of the things that we want to think about is that we want to help our kids kind of have some sense of daily organization throughout the summer. Not the same as in school, like it could be more like what I call a directed free choice camp schedule. So in the morning, there's a block of time. Perhaps you as a parent have to work, or there's a time for reading or doing some summer homework or whatever that happens in the morning when you're fresh and your kids are fresh, and then lunch, and then maybe having an afternoon block of a fun activity, going swimming or to a water park or going for a lovely hike to along a stream or a river, something where you have a plan. Um, the caveat is that you actually can't decide on those things all on your own because they won't have any buy-in. So what we want to do is create some kind of summer plan in advance. So while kids may not like having a structure of some kind, it actually keeps them organized in ways that they're accustomed to. Um, so how are we going to do that? So the first step is to remember that that we want it. It's a flexible schedule, but it's some kind of block thinking for the day. So, for example, because it's a vacation, there's probably more flexibility about when to wake up and when to go to bed. What do you want those parameters to be? What do your kids want those parameters to be? How much screen time are you hoping for your kids to have during the day? And do you want to have a curfew for older kids, and what does that look like? How much screen time do you want for yourself in the summer? If you're taking a week of vacation and you spend it all in front of a screen, I don't think you're going to go back to your job feeling refreshed. What you're going to feel is, kind of like, where did my week go? A little bit like you missed an opportunity. So some kids really benefit from, structured activities that you enroll them in. A couple weeks of, maybe learning how to program or make a computer game. Or I think one year I sent my daughter to a cooking class. It was in the mornings only, and she learned how to like hold knives appropriately and cut, and that was a fun thing. So what we want to do is to think about things that our kids are interested in. There's a camp in my town, which is like rock band camp, and you go for a week, and with other kids you form a band, and then you whatever make music and maybe record it, and then there's a performance at the end. So whether your child goes to a paid activity or plays an organized sport or has play dates that you set up or sleepovers or has a part-time job or likes to shoot hoops at the Y basketball court, there's still some type of schedule for each day that correlates to the one that they're accustomed to from the school year. So let's see, I see some more comments here, so let's see what we've got. Desi, my daughter will be part of a social group one day a week with her mental health group. Fantastic. We also will target new learning skills and keep up with her reading and math skills so she doesn't fall behind. Desi, I don't have ADHD, but work best in the morning. I hope to use that for us to target the learning pieces. That makes a lot of sense, Desi, because in the morning, you know, basically the brain is fresh. And then in the afternoon is a great time to go off somewhere and do something and just hang out and let your mind wander. Heather, I agree. How do we keep them busy doing other things not requiring electronics? Okay, so this is the $9 million question for most people. And I think that the answer is, what do you want? Like, what are your electronic time goals for your kids in the summer? So maybe during the school year they get 2 hours of screen time. Is it reasonable in the summer that they would get three? And can you divide them up so it's 1 hour here and then 2 hours here, so that you can fill up some gaps? When you might need perhaps to do some work or cook dinner or something like that. Um, what we want to do is to remember that summer is a good time for kids to pursue their interests and non-academic um, talents. So with so much focus on academic achievement, including grades, test scores, and applications for college for high schoolers, kids really need a mental and emotional break to explore other parts of themselves. So summer can be really good for targeting remedial work, but also pursuing a non-school subject in depth. Um, uh, you know, um, Perhaps there is a school subject they're interested in. They love chemistry. They want to do, some sort of science class that takes them further in their chemistry. That's fine. It's fine to pursue academic interests as long as those are balanced with non-academic interests. So what we want to do is to brainstorm with them what are activities to do when you're not on your screen. And this is where that little bit of structure can help out. So because that means setting up a plan. And a lot of particularly 14-year-olds, I would say eighth graders, this really kind of sinks in eighth and ninth grade. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I just want my summer to be free. And then that means online all the time. So I think it's really clear to lay out in the beginning, well, you can have as much free time as you want, but you're only going to have screen access during this time. So I think we need to brainstorm a list of other things you can do. And that can include volunteering, whether it's a religious organization, a homeless shelter, um, whether it's working for a cause that matters to them. A 15-year-old can absolutely have, a part-time internship where they have to show up and do something. Maybe they decide to volunteer at the local hospital. Maybe they want to learn how to garden and will volunteer at a farm, or perhaps even paid a nominal amount. Susan says, sign the kids up for library summer reading program. They pick up the books. They pick the books. Harry Potter was popular when my kids were young, before the movies came out. Great. Heidi says, we like to keep a similar structure as we have during the school year. Routines and structure are important for my ADHD and ASD boys. I involve my boys in the process by including them in how we structure our days. Absolutely. Bravo, Heidi. My older son, 13, with ADHD and ASD, has started wanting to gain more social skills. Fantastic. This summer for him will be a lot about stepping out of his comfort zone and getting uncomfortable to grow socially. Awesome. Jennifer says, I'm hoping to do a reading challenge. Limit screen time to specific times of day, swim more, and support learning and independent life skills like tying shoes, making food, regular chores. I also want to encourage you to help your kids learn independent life skills around the house. Do they know how to change a tire on the bicycle? Could they cook a meal or help cook a meal? Could that be part of their summer learning? Most kids like to eat, so what would it be like to learn how to cook some of your favorite foods? Swim more and learn to ride a bike. Fantastic. Heidi, my boys have a list that they brainstormed in advance. Oh, what's on that, Heidi? Would you share? I'd love to hear. Diana, what if their only interest is computer and Minecraft? How do I get past that? I don't know is a common response. So I think for kids who are super interested in computer and Minecraft, there are actually summer programs for where kids get together and they might build maybe robotics, or they may engaged in gaming as a group, or learning how to maybe create your own game. So if that's what your child is interested in, what can you find in that subject area? That's my hope. Donna, I'm working on a daily schedule for Monday to Thursday that will include free time and limiting screen time unless otherwise he'd spend all day watching TV on screens. Yeah. Making a choice board to work on occupational therapy stuff within that schedule. That's right. So what's really great about what you're saying, Diana, is that Donna, excuse me, there's some choice, right? So I call this, directed free choice. So you can choose A or you can choose B, but you have to choose A or B, right? And sometimes what happens is we say, okay, what do you want to do with our kids? And they're like, well, I don't know. And you're like, well, how about this? And you suggest something. No. And how about that? You suggest something. What you want to do is sit down and actually have a super big brainstorm about all kinds of choices of things, so that when that you can then spread out across the week. And some of your kids, many of your kids, may need some assistance setting up social plans, particularly like even sometimes middle schoolers, particularly, but certainly elementary school age kids need help, because they can't always figure it out on their own in advance. Whether you want to have another family over or go for a picnic together with someone else, or invite a friend to go mini golfing, to really kind of help them socialize, which is what they need to be doing this summer, particularly after COVID. As much socializing and building those skills as possible is very helpful. Cassandra says, I used to not like Minecraft or Roblox until I realized there's a lot of great skills to be learned within those games. My daughter loves Roblox and got really good at building houses. Roblox, people ask her to build for her. I allowed her to start a YouTube channel last year where she gives tutorials on how to build. Fabulous. She's now learning how to improve on her video editing skills and how to create quality content. That's great. And that's probably, an online course or tutorials that she's watching, and then she's applying them in a creative way. And that can be a choice for the morning chunk, right? Or for after our afternoon activity to break it up. Corinna, my challenge is I work from home. Yeah. And my ADHD brain struggles with focusing on my production for work and keeping the kids busy. That's a super tall order. So I think it's really hard for you and for any parent who's working from home and supervising kids at the same time. And so in that situation, what I would encourage you to do is, do you know other parents who might work at home as well? Can you make a trade where you're watching the kids for this period of time and they're watching the kids for that period of time, so you can each get work done? Perhaps allowing to have you to have a work period, and that can be their screen time, so they don't need direct supervision in the same way, and you can get something done. And maybe seeing if there are family members, extended family members, who can help you out. Older aunts or uncles, cousins, who could babysit perhaps, or can be a good resource. Diana, my son would love his own YouTube channel, but my husband and I are not there yet. It's amazing the skills they learn. It is really amazing. Corinna, ditto. It's hard to focus on the technical part of work and keep my daughter busy, and we're both ADHD. Right. So I think that in those situations, if you can have project-based activities, so that actually can last long enough for you to do something significant, and maybe you're using the Pomodoro method, where you work for 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break, you do another 25 minutes, and then you take a bigger break. It's this constant juggling. I do encourage you to really try to find some other families or some people who have relatives who have kids around the same age, and try to set up something where you can share childcare. So part of what I want to say is that you want to make time for two conversations. The first one is the brainstorming conversation. You're going to sit down for a limited amount of talk time about the summer. Consider what worked last summer. You hopefully can remember some of the things that you did last summer that you all enjoyed and that were some systems that you had in place that made sense. And your kids possibly can remember some of the things that worked last summer and the systems that were in place. Perhaps do some preliminary research based on that information. Make a list of possibilities and who's going to look into what. For example, older kids and teens will want to investigate options which helps them with their burgeoning desire for autonomy. Set a specific date and time for the second conversation within a week or so. Otherwise, it's out of sight or out of mind. So if they're interested in A, B, or C, let their fingers do the walking, as we used to say, and investigate. Oh, I really like. There's like a Lego camp I'm interested in going to, or this camp has there's a soccer. The town offers a soccer program. What are some things that we can afford that you could be engaged in? Heidi says, Heidi says, things I can do when I'm bored or off screen: read a book, play puzzles, Lego, soccer in the backyard, drawing, crafts, play with Tubbs the cat, go for a walk. This is some of my son's list that he created. Fabulous. When my son is bored on or off screen, we prompt him, what can you do? Then he goes to the list and chooses what activities to do. Puzzles can be really great, as well as other kinds of crafts. I think Cassandra said, we have strict oversight on the YouTube, and she isn't allowed to show her face in her videos or give any identifiers about where she lives or her age. We stay on top of the comments and have many of the built-in safeguards in place that are offered. Fantastic. Corinna, it's definitely a lot of juggling under one roof. Thanks for your suggestions. You're most welcome. So now it's time to have the follow-up conversation. So you're going to come back together with everybody's research. So maybe one of your kids is like, I want to go to the beach more. Okay, great. Why don't you look around, look up, spend on, I'll give you an extra half hour of computer time and you can research beaches near us and see which ones you want and make a list. Perhaps your daughter says, I really want to see a concert this summer. I want to see so and so, and those tickets are $250, so that's not going to happen. You can say, great, well, that's not something we can afford, but there are other free concerts. Why don't you look and see what the free concerts are? Or maybe there's a festival we can go to, which has many people playing at the same time. They come back. You come back together as a group with their research that includes dates and cost and places. And then you can sit down and map out the summer with a calendar, a regular old paper calendar. I think can be really useful. You could also draw something. If you want to do it online, you can do that if that works for you. And you make a tentative schedule. And the key word here is tentative because things change, right? You have to rein in the signups and payments, and you have to decide what you can afford and what you can't. And if you hit an obstacle, you can come back, regroup, and find something else. Susan, I love the idea of yo-yo. It's really high-tech modern ones. They were impressed. Yo-yoing is a great skill for kids, and there are actually yo-yo camps. Improvisational theater can be useful. Any kind of physical activity, of course, is great. At this point in the year, if you have not made arrangements for the summer, I really encourage you to talk to your kids immediately about figuring out how they're going to spend their time. They may well need your assistance to create a purpose and destination for their days or their weeks. A lot of camps now have shifted from like you have to go all month, but you can do this for a week and then nothing and then another week of something. And that can really help your family budget. If your kids aren't cooperating with, working with you on their summer, then I think that's a bigger conversation. And that conversation is like, what makes it hard to sit down and talk about the summer? I know what you're telling me is you don't want to plan, but I also know that after 3 days of no plan, you're climbing the walls. So we have to create a balance between a plan and no plan. That that is part of why a summer works. And you only have a limited number of summers to have really great experiences. So let's work together to make that happen. You can also use screen time or other privileges as incentives and earn rewards for participating in the conversation. For example, or for having a job, a small job. If your daughter agrees to work as a mother's helper for 5 mornings a week, she can earn an extra hour of screen time on those days. So it's not what she necessarily wants to do, but it's something that you want her to do, and then she'll have the benefit of what she wants, which she'll have earned. It also makes sense to relax some of the school year rules about when to go to sleep and wake up in the morning, and negotiate these items with your kids, letting them take the lead on what they want before you offer something. That way, you can come off as generous, and they've got more buy-in into the program. So, how late do you think you want to sleep in the morning? Oh, I want to sleep until noon. Okay. Have you ever slept until noon? Not really. I usually wake up by 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Okay. So why don't we say 9 o'clock then? Because that seems more realistic. So you're working with them, okay? Um, what are you? Do they need to get dressed? Can they spend the whole day in their pajamas? What about breakfast? Where do they put the dishes after breakfast? If they're leaving their house, for older teens, do they need to let you know? They want to check in about where they're going, particularly if they're driving the car. What are the conditions for that? Um, and I think that when kids in the summer are doing things that you want them to do, maybe they get a little extra screen time for that, which matters to them. Um, so you want to listen to their input, you want to reflect back what you're hearing, and if appropriate, make a compromise that you can stick to. So I would love to hear from some of you. What are some of the things that you think your kids would like to do this summer? What are some things that you would like to do this summer? That would be really fantastic to hear. Um, what are some things that you'd like to do this summer? And what are some things you think your kids would like to do this summer? Um, the final thing that we want to talk about, of course, is summer homework. Um, I really don't think that many teens and children with ADHD are going to dig into their summer homework the day the school's over, or the next week, or maybe the week after. So we want to give them a little bit of time to recover from school, and then we want to set up a program of when you're actually going to do the studying. Particularly for kids who are juniors and actually want to apply to college, summer before senior year is a time of maybe working on their essay. What's the plan for that? Maybe visiting some colleges. What's the plan for that going to be? What is their initiative? I know that I have a friend coming to visit in August whose daughter's applying to college, and they had like 4 or 5 places, and then the daughter added 3 more places that she wanted to visit. And my friend didn't necessarily really want to go, but she's like, this is her trip. This is what she wants. We're gonna squeeze it in, which I think is pretty generous and really smart because this is her trip and this is what she wants to do. So one of the things that helps in the summer, particularly with summer work, are family work times. So particularly for those of you who are working from your house and your kids have some schoolwork or you want them to do some remedial work, that's a great time to put the have to before the want to. So they have to do some of this remedial work before they earn their free time, or whatever special fun thing that you have planned for the day. And even if it's just going for ice cream, that they want that you do that have to first. So let's see, what do people want to do really great? Melissa, me, nap, kids, art projects. Okay. Great maybe to teach them some art projects they can do without your supervision, beading or knitting or something like that. Susan, hear live music again. You bet. Diana, I second naps. Carrie, My oldest decided he wants to make leather crafts to sell at the Kid Entrepreneur Market this year. Oh, that is so cool. My middle child wants to learn parkour. For schoolwork, we got some fun activity books for them to do. Fantastic. And now you can figure out when that's going to happen and how. Um, and it's great. The summer is really a time to do things that you cannot do during the school year, particularly if you're an outside the box thinker. This is a time when you can make leather crafts or learn parkour or, try different kinds of artistic endeavors that maybe you've not been able to try before. What are some other things that you and your kids want to do? Um, because I think it would be helpful to also remember to leave time for spontaneity. Maybe you have a few Saturdays in the summer that you call magical mystery tours. And you wake up in the morning as a family and you're like, where are we going? And let's like pick something from our list, one of those places, and off we go. We're going to do something we haven't done. We're going to have an explore. And those can be really fun because they're spontaneous and they're hopefully engaging and amusing. Um, and there's something in it for everyone. Um, Gardening, painting, and decorating a new house. Sounds good, Melissa. Gardening, like cooking, is actually a great activity for kids in terms of teaching independent living skills. Because with gardening, you're learning science while you're actually seeing your lettuce come up. And then you can eat the lettuce, although some kids may not like that, but maybe strawberries or some vegetable that they do enjoy. Fly kites and blow bubbles. I realize this is more for kids, but I'm finding it helpful for myself. Thanks, Fabiola. In terms of adults, I'm happy to turn and pivot a little bit to some adults right now for some adult summer tips. So let's do that. So a lot of times for us as adults, summer is a period where we set pretty high expectations. It's when we're going to try to do the things that we can't get to in the rest of the year. And I want to really encourage you to maybe rethink that. And instead of having a big to-do list this summer, maybe you want to make a to-don't list. What don't you want to do this summer? So that you can, I don't want to spend more than an hour a day on Facebook or my email. Great. How are you going to monitor that? What kind of alarm or alert do you need to get off your screen? I don't want to spend so much time by myself. Great. Can you join a hiking group? Can you maybe take a tour at a local art museum? What are some things that you can do that are going to fill you up this summer? I don't know where you may live, but here in Massachusetts, it's a short summer. Like, it's short. You get May, some of May, June, July, August, and then September is nice, but most of us have to go back to work more, in a different way. Many people take their vacations in the summer, and so that's a time where we're sort of juggling with our supervisors or our colleagues, like who's going to do what when. I really want to encourage you to make some time for spontaneity for yourself, and also for do you have a particular goal for yourself? Like this summer, would you like to make a new friend, or would you like to learn how to bake a pie, or would you like to ride a bike or learn to swim? What are some things that what's something when we come to the other side of the summer in September, you're going to look back and you say, great, I did that. I feel good about it. Karen says, I have so many things I want to do that I end up doing nothing. How do I change that? Okay, so Karen, here's what I want to say to you. Pick 3 things that you really want to do this summer. Right now, write them down. Pick 3. And then work on those 3 things only, because your list is too big and you're not going to get to it, and then you're going to feel bad about yourself. So of those 3 things, perhaps one thing is the thing you want to start with, and that may be the only thing you do this summer, and that's okay. I find sometimes for myself, like I have a big appetite of what I want to do, but I don't necessarily have the energy to follow through on that appetite. Right. And so, and summer is a time where we are supposed to sort of, you know, soak up some sun and sit in the shade and read and put our toes in the grass and in the sand and in the water and relax. So maybe take the pressure off yourself, name those three things, and of those three things, which is the one that most appeals to you? And do that. Cassandra said, oh, wait. Melissa said, raising chickens and caterpillars. Cassandra said, we're gardening this year and I'm learning how I can and preserve food. Wow, interesting. I plan to involve them in the canning process so they have the skills when they're older. Oh, that's awesome. I wish I knew how to do that. Susan, I started planting native plants for bees and butterflies, also more water wise. Cassandra, North Carolina summers are long and it can be a blessing and a curse. Fabiola, thanks for the tips. Living in Texas, so summer's almost eternal. Nice for you. I'm a little jealous. Cassandra, aren't we always learning something new? I follow the dopamine wherever I can. It's my favorite part of having ADHD. So that's great. So, we want to separate out that natural spontaneity and curiosity we have from the shoulds, right? So a lot of us feel like, oh, I should do this in the summer, or maybe I should do that. And, give yourself a should break, right? Give yourself a should vacation and really think about, yes, there may be some shoulds for you this summer, but what are some things that are really going to fill your heart? What are some things that are going to make that joyful moment, joyful memory that you can recall later on? Fabiola, learn how to swim. Ooh. Or I would love to enroll in Kung Fu classes. So maybe start with learning to swim, and you could do a Kung Fu class once a week. You could do probably both of those because swimming isn't something that you're going to do. It's not a one-time thing. It takes practice, and you'll need someone to need to go to a class. So if you have it in you for 2 classes, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. Melissa, go native plants. Diana, yes, I feel we definitely need other people this summer. My son is showing more interest in socializing, initiating conversation, so finding friends is important to me. My daughter's an extrovert, so it's necessary for her as well. Right. So one of the things that we can do for ourselves also as adults, if we're going to try something new, and I'm thinking about, Karen, that if you have like a couple things on your list, do you have a friend or a buddy who can be your partner in this? Like maybe they have a list of 3 things they want to do, and together you can decide, okay, I'm going to do this and this, and do you want to come with me and maybe try that Kung Fu class, or do you want to take a cooking class so we can learn how to make Thai food if you don't know how to do that, or something that appeals to you. So to try to enlist our friends to do activities with us. Where I live out here in Western Massachusetts, there's a lot of live theater and dance. So, I'm just about to contact my friends who have already bought their tickets because I'm behind, and see, which thing I might be able to go to with them, which things are still available, and to get out to some live performances. So, let's take a minute now and kind of close where we started. So I'd like you to close your eyes for a second, and reach back to that memory of a joyful moment in the summer. And I'd like you to think forward a little bit and look into this summer, and think about what is one thing that you want to get out of this summer. What's a feeling that you want to have when the summer kind of comes to a close and it starts getting a little colder? What's a feeling that you want to have? Because when we can identify that feeling that we want to have as adults, we can move towards it. So for me, I want to feel some peace. It's been a very busy 6 months here, maybe more than 6 months since COVID started. And I'm really looking forward to the summer, to going hiking and going to the beach and reading and just having some super downtime to fill up my creativity bowl so that I'm ready for the fall. And also just because I love it, I want to sing. So share, please put in the chat. What is a feeling that you want to have? So for me, singing brings me joy. So it's the joy of singing and the peace of just chilling out. What would you like to have? Can you put that in the chat for us before we close? I'd love to see what you're looking for this summer and support you in making that happen. Anybody else want to perhaps feel joy from music, or be in the water? I love being in the water. That's very soothing for me. What are some things that's a feeling that you want to get, like feeling soothed, feeling something? So Carrie, you want family togetherness. Beautiful. Melissa, you'd like to feel settled and safe. I like that. Fabiola, feeling connected with others, with nature. Ooh, right there with you. Um, Anybody else? These are such great, great goals, and they're achievable goals, right? You will have moments of togetherness. You can have times when you feel settled and safe, and hopefully you will feel connected with others and in nature. If you have never read this poem, I would like to share a poem with you by Mary Oliver called The Summer Day. And it is one of my most favorite poems. And I think it's a nice way to end today. So I just want to finish, go back to what people are saying. Get out in nature again, Susan, Cassandra. I want to feel okay with whatever we do. I don't want to feel regret or like it was wasted. Amen. Be in the present. Be here now. Diana, I'm an overthinker, so I want peace. I'm an overthinker and happiness. Jennifer, feeling that we did some fun things, learned some, and didn't screen all day. Karen, a feeling of relaxed summer and not guilty with should-haves. Rachel, the clear-headedness that comes from lots of outdoor time. Oh, I love that. Peacefulness in nature. Okay, so I'd like to read this poem, one of my all-time favorite poems by one of my all-time favorite poets, by Mary Oliver. The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? Mary Oliver. This is from a collection of poems by Mary Oliver. You can Google it. She's a most amazing poet. I Googled it online. It's called The Summer Day. So this weekend, I wish you some wild and precious moments, and I wish you a wonderful summer. Of course, we'll be back in 2 weeks talking about graduation.